Chapters 5 and 6 of Book 1 of Les Misérables, Volume 3, by Victor Hugo. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Caitlin Foley. Les Misérables, Volume 3, by Victor Hugo. Translated by Isabel, Florence, HAPGOOD. Book 1. Paris Studied in its Atom. Chapter 5. His Frontiers. The gamin loves the city. He also loves solitude, since he has something of the sage in him. Urbis amator, like Fuscus; ruris amator, like Flaccus. To roam thoughtfully about, that is to say, to lounge, is a fine employment of time in the eyes of the philosopher, particularly in that rather illegitimate species of campaign, which is tolerably ugly, but odd and composed of two natures, which surrounds certain great cities, notably Paris. To study the suburbs is to study the amphibious animal. End of the trees, beginning of the roofs; end of the grass, beginning of the pavements; end of the furrows, beginning of the shops; end of the wheel ruts, beginning of the passions; end of the divine murmur, beginning of the human uproar. Hence an extraordinary interest. Hence, in these not very attractive places, indelibly stamped by the passing stroller with the epithet melancholy, the apparently objectless promenades of the dreamer. He who writes these lines has long been a prowler about the barriers of Paris, and it is for him a source of profound souvenirs. That close-shaven turf, those pebbly paths, that chalk, those pools, those harsh monotonies of waste and fallow lands, the plants of early market garden suddenly springing into sight in a bottom, that mixture of the savage and the citizen, those vast desert nooks where the garrison drums practise noisily, the produce a sort of lisping of battle, those hermits by day and cutthroats by night, that clumsy mill which turns in the wind, the hoisting wheels of the quarries, the tea gardens at the corners of the cemeteries, the mysterious charm of great sombre walls, squarely intersecting immense vague stretches of land, inundated with sunshine and full of butterflies, all this attracted him. There is hardly anyone on earth who is not acquainted with those singular spots, the Glacière, the Cunette, the hideous wall of Grenelle, all speckled with balls, Montparnasse, the Fosse à Loup, Aubière on the bank of the Marne, Montsouris, the Doumissoir, the Pierre Plat de Chantillon, where there is an old exhausted quarry which no longer serves any purpose except to raise mushrooms, and which is closed on a level with the ground by a trap-door of rotten planks. The Campagna of Rome is one idea, the banlieue of Paris is another. To behold nothing but fields, houses, or trees in what a stretch of country offers us, is to remain on the surface. All aspects of things are thoughts of God. The spot where a plain effects its junction with the city is always stamped with a certain piercing melancholy. Nature and humanity both appeal to you at the same time there. Local originalities there make their appearance. Anyone who, like ourselves, has wandered about in these solitudes contiguous to our faubourgs, which may be designated as the limbos of Paris, has seen here and there, in the most desert spot, at the most unexpected moment, behind a meagre hedge or in this corner of a lugubrious wall, children grouped tumultuously, fetid, muddy, dusty, ragged, dishevelled, playing hide and seek, and crowned with cornflowers. All of them are little ones who have made their escape from poor families. The outer boulevard is their breathing space, the suburbs belong to them. There they are eternally playing truant. There they innocently sing their repertory of dirty songs. There they are, or rather there they exist, far from every eye, in the sweet light of May or June, kneeling round a hole in the ground, snapping marbles with their thumbs, quarrelling over half-farthings, irresponsible, volatile, free, and happy. And no sooner do they catch sight of you than they recollect that they have an industry, and that they must earn their living, and they offer to sell you an old woolen stocking filled with cockchafers or a bunch of lilacs. These encounters with strange children are one of the charming and at the same time poignant graces of the environs of Paris. Sometimes there are little girls among the throngs of boys, are they their sisters, who are almost young maidens, thin, feverish, with sunburnt hands, covered with freckles, crowned with poppies and ears of rye, gay, haggard, barefooted. They can be seen devouring cherries among the wheat. In the evening they can be heard laughing. These groups, warmly illuminated by the full glow of midday, or distinctly seen in the twilight, occupy the thoughtful man for a very long time, and these visions mingle with his dreams. Paris, centre, banlieue, circumference. This constitutes all the earth to those children. They never venture beyond this. They can no more escape from the Parisian atmosphere than fish can escape from the water. For them, nothing exists 2 leagues beyond the barriers. Ivry, Chantilly, Arctur, Bellevue, Aubervilliers, Ménilmontant, Choisy-le-Roi, Briancourt, Mendon, Issy, Vanvray, Sèvres, Puteaux, Neuilly, Geneviève, Colombes, Romainville, Château, Asnières, Bougival, Nanterre, Enghien, Noisy-le-Sec, Nogent, Gournay, Drams, et Gonesse. The universe ends there. Chapter 6. A Bit of History. At the epoch, nearly contemporary by the way, when the action of this book takes place, there is not, as there is today, a policeman at the corner of every street, a benefit which there is no time to discuss here. Stray children abounded in Paris. The statistics give an average of 260 homeless children picked up annually at that period by the police patrols in unenclosed lands, in houses in process of construction, and under the arches of the bridges. One of these nests, which has become famous, produced the swallows of the bridge of Arcola. This is, moreover, the most disastrous of social symptoms. All crimes of the man begin in the vagabondage of the children. Let us make an exception in favor of Paris, nevertheless. In a relative measure, and in spite of the souvenir which we have just recalled, the exception is just. While in any other great city the vagabond child is a lost man, while nearly everywhere the child left to itself is, in some sort, sacrificed and abandoned to a kind of fatal immersion in the public vices which devour in him honesty and conscience, the street boy of Paris, we insist on this point, however defaced and injured on the surface, is almost intact on the interior. It is a magnificent thing to put on record, and one which shines forth in the splendid probity of our popular revolutions, that a certain incorruptibility results from the idea which exists in the air of Paris, as salt exists in the water of the ocean. To breathe Paris preserves the soul. What we have just said takes away nothing of the anguish of heart which one experiences every time that one meets one of these children, around whom one fancies that he beholds floating the threads of a broken family. In the civilization of the present day, incomplete as it still is, it is not a very abnormal thing to behold these fractured families pouring themselves out into the darkness, not knowing clearly what has become of their children, and allowing their own entrails to fall on the public highway. Hence these obscure destinies. This is called, for the sad thing has given rise to an expression, to be cast on the pavements of Paris. Let it be said, by the way, that this abandonment of children was not discouraged by the ancient monarchy. A little of Egypt and Bohemia and the lower regions suited the upper spheres, and compassed the aims of the powerful. The hatred of instruction for the children of the people was a dogma. What is the use of half-lights? Such was the countersign. Now, the erring child is the corollary of the ignorant child. Besides this, the monarchy sometimes was in need of children, and in that case it skimmed the streets. Under Louis XIV, not to go any further back, the king rightly desired to create a fleet. The idea was a good one, but let us consider the means. There can be no fleet if, beside the sailing ship, that plaything of the winds, and for the purpose of towing it, in case of necessity, there is not the vessel which goes where it pleases, either by means of oars or of steam. The galleys were then to the marine what steamers are today. Therefore galleys were necessary. But the galley is moved only by the galley slave. Hence, galley slaves were required. Colbert had the commissioners of provinces and the parliaments make as many convicts as possible. The magistracy showed a great deal of complaisance in that matter. A man kept his hat on in the presence of a procession. It was a Huguenot attitude. He was sent to the galleys. A child was encountered in the streets. Provided that he was 15 years of age and did not know where he was to sleep, he was sent to the galleys. Grand reign, grand century. Under Louis XV, children disappeared in Paris. The police carried them off, for what mysterious purpose no one knew. People whispered with terror monstrous conjectures as to the king's baths of purple. Barbier speaks ingenuously of these things. It sometimes happened that the exempts of the guard, when they ran short of children, took those who had fathers. The fathers in despair attacked the exempts. In that case the Parliament intervened and had some one hung. Who? The exempts? No, the fathers. End of Book 1, Chapters 5 and 6.